Hey, 2 boxes. This one based on shape and size. Well, it's from Right Stuff. I'll show you the shipping label, except that kind of contains addresses. Oh, come on. Probably an NIS release, I don't remember what. Maybe not. Really smaller. Oh, of course, yeah, that. Let's see, that. And stuff. Let's go ahead and begin with that Persona 4 Golden. The Golden animation? Are they 2 different implementations? I don't remember. Got a lot of extras, goodies, and let's see. So disc 1 and 2 and original soundtrack. So disc 1 and 2. Lots of rainbows. Blu-ray. Soundtrack. List of tracks. CD. Now let's take a look at this stuff. We've got a booklet. Cards. Artwork's neat. It's kind of tempting to look in it, but standard stuff. See, next up we've got Blade and Soul. Looks like this is a Blu-ray version. Sealed on the side. Region A. Japanese subtitles only. Oh god, it's sticky. Now it's stuck like this. It's like your mom said your mouth would be if you kept making that funny face. Who's laughing now, Mom? That is surprisingly hard to get open at all. Fortunately, we've got scissors. I guess before we open that, this one will be the looser plastic does make it harder to puncture. So, DVD version, we've got pretty artwork. And the Blu-ray version should have 2 discs with the same artwork as the first disc. It looks like the last disc, assuming I can count correctly. Her shirt's barely on. It's not a shirt, that's a bikini top. This would be a Black Bullet. I think this one is actually fairly talked about, which makes sense given that I've noticed that it English dubbed. Alright, Sentai. You, Me, and the Tab again. What's that? Feels like the same loose plastic, except this, or stretchy plastic, except this time very tight. So I can't even get it started. I could be mistaken though. It could just be really tight plastic. So, back of the Blu-ray, region A only, and of course the dub. It's dubbed there, right? I mean, it's one of those things where we do need to keep our eyes out for any dub-only Blu-ray releases in case any more of those come out. Excuse me. And then this one has the same first disc. Artwork, and the same second disc artwork. So that's how Sentai normally mixes things up. You know, they almost always have the same first disc artwork and stuff. Next up comes Sailor Moon R Part 2. Featuring all new extras. Where's the Part 2? There's Part 2. This one may be notable. Hard to tell from the back, but at this point, if this means all of Sailor Moon R is released, then region A only. It's probably going to have the new dub. There was a new dub, right? This is a new dub with sub stuff. So there's one episode that did not get released, I think dubbed, and ADV didn't release it back with their old subtitle stuff. So with any luck, this has all the episodes 69 through 89. It's one where Mini Usagi visits a dinosaur on an island or something like that. Let's see, I'm trying to... That says A, Blu-ray, disc 2, Blu-ray. So, let's see, there's definitely artwork on these, it's just the hard to see inverted kind. Disc 3, Blu-ray. And then we've got the DVD versions, which have the same three artworks, I think. Just a lot easier to see. And last but not least, One Piece Season 7 Voyage 3. With snakes. Snake girls. Although not as attractive as the kind of Monster Musume something. So I think pretty standard disc 1, disc 2. Disc 1 is disc 1. It says 1 right there. I think we had one where there was stuff mislabeled, or there was erroneous stuff. Was there erroneous stuff? That's a disc 2. So it all looks good. That's this week's anime DVD collection update. So let's see. Last week I had started watching this. I had watched the first episode and I was like, it was kind of hard to tell what to think from it. So watching more of it, I kind of understand what was going on there with my thoughts. The anime itself is kind of like that. It's definitely got some really good moments, but it's also going for some strange portrayals that sometimes feel inaccurate for the explanation they give for things. So there's an element of it where, you know, that's kind of related to just an overall problem with it, where it's a little convenient. There's some details that might have been nice to have in the first episode that might have changed my opinion of the first impression of it, but I don't know. There was a lot of moments that were convenient, and then little clever moments hidden in there that were just really entertaining, or hey, that's a neat idea. And I can't really talk about those too much because they're so spoilerish. So it's got a very on the good side sort of rating, and I agree. I kind of actually enjoyed having watched it. It had its enjoyable moments, but it also definitely had some cringy moments mixed in there. It's a mix. Now, I had as a goal to finish watching Yakitate Japan. I had started rewatching the stuff I'd seen before, made progress beyond that, and started into the third season. And like I said before, something's a little off by the third season. There's still amusing entertainment quality there. I guess part of it is it feels a little more formulaic, which is kind of interesting because, you know, everything before is, oh, we need to make bread, this is why we're going to lose. Oh, except that we win because we do something that the enemy didn't expect. And maybe this is kind of whittled it down to that formula. It still does amusing things. It's not exactly the same every time. And I'm definitely making progress, but I didn't make as much progress as I wanted because of One Night Ultimate Vampire. This is actually a collector's box. So, to explain everything, there was a Kickstarter. If you're not familiar with One Night Ultimate Werewolf, maybe you've played a game called Werewolf or Mafia. The basic idea is most players are villagers, but some of the villagers are actually werewolves or members of the Mafia. And One Night Ultimate Werewolf is basically that sort of game where the villagers are trying to find the werewolves are trying not to die. But the twist is it's supposed to be a single night of that. And you don't have to kill all the werewolves, you don't have to kill all the villagers, you just have to kill one werewolf or no werewolves die, and those are your win conditions. So instead you get to make the rules complicated. I mean, not like so complicated that an individual person can't do them, but when you take all the roles into consideration, the entire night has a complicated element where you're trying to figure out who the fucking liar is, because that person's a werewolf. You've got to kill them. So, it's a fun game. You know, some of the rules are really simple. Take that person's card, you're now that, whatever that person was, you get to take a look at it, swap those two people's cards. You don't know what they were, you don't know what they are now. You have cards that can look at other cards, and you know you got a mix of stuff. And then of course you got werewolves. You got a villager who's actually on the side of the werewolves, is trying to make everybody think he's a werewolf, so the werewolves don't die. And then you got the tanner, who hates life and wants to die, and he wins and everybody else loses if he dies. And you got an expansion to that was One Night Ultimate Werewolf Daybreak, which added additional rules that makes. Some of them are a bit more complicated, which makes them very fun to add in, but most of them I would not actually play with a person new to the game. So One Night Ultimate Vampire was funded on Kickstarter, and that stuff started shipping out recently, and my copy arrived last week. And that's where we get to start talking about this, because it arrived Wednesday, but I didn't know it until I picked it up on Thursday. And then I found out that this collector's box, which holds all three of the sets, all in one, needed to be assembled, and I needed to make a plan for that. So my entire Friday night went to that, just assembling this. And then comes the problem where the game itself, normally you can't have somebody who is the narrator who helps the night go through. But if you want everybody to play, you need the app. And the problem with that is my phone is not a smartphone. I don't have any tablets, so all I have is this Mac, pretty much. And that travels with me everywhere, and I definitely want to be able to play the game with people. So I mention all of this because that explains why I did not finish Yakitate Japan, because the entirety of Friday night was spent working on this, even beyond my Friday night time with my friend. But Saturday and Sunday, well, what I was doing for One Night Ultimate Werewolf and its first expansion, I actually have a program on here. You see, the app, I can get the app because the app's free. It's not hard to get the app. But the problem is I don't have anything that can play it. None of the emulators or simulators I got wanted to play it, which is annoying because it's free. It's like the point of it. So what do I do? Well, it turns out you can open it up and you can access the MP3 files directly inside it. And so I just wrote a very simple program. I mean, a relatively simple program. It's a little messy, but it stitches the MP3 files together to behave just like the app. So that's my version of it, and that's why the entire weekend was spent updating it to include the One Night Ultimate Vampire roles, because that Kickstarter doubled the number of roles. There's a lot more sound files, a lot more complicated interactions. For example, you have the assassin and the apprentice assassin, and of course the doppelganger could doppelgang the assassin or the apprentice assassin, and the way they wake up depends, what kind of sounds get played depends on, is there a doppelganger in play? Because a doppelganger could doppelgang one of them. Is only one or the other in play? In fact, I might not have even gotten all the permutations. Who knows? I might have to... No, I might have gotten it. So you got complicated things like that. Then you have things like the Beholder, which is a new role that's definitely for werewolf and not for vampire, but of course you can use it in games that mix the two of them together. And the Beholder has different files for the Seer is in play, but not the Apprentice Seer. The Apprentice Seer is in play, but not the Seer. Both of them are in play. So, you have a lot of stuff you have to mix together. And then there's a doppelganger version of the Beholder stuff. It's not too bad, but it's the sort of thing that did take the entire weekend to figure out. And so then that pretty much just left last night for trying to finish 13 episodes of Yakitate Japan, and that just did not happen. So who knows what's going to happen regarding finishing the watching of this. I am definitely going to be trying to watch more stuff tonight. But if you haven't guessed, I'm a little off. It's all this exercising, doing it late in the day and then coming home and wanting to sleep but wanting to do other stuff and then just being in a weird trance instead. Oh yes, weird trance. So I'm going to definitely try and finish it. Well, I guess I already covered One Night Ultimate Vampire. If you are familiar with One Night Ultimate Werewolf but do not know how Vampire changes things, it stands alone on its own very well, and they called it a prequel because what they've essentially done is taking what was a one night and then a day where you try to figure out who is who, and they divide that night into two parts: dusk, which is just before night, and night itself proper. And the idea is you have players who have their roles, but then they also have a mark, which can affect gameplay. Maybe they'll be the target of the assassin, or maybe Cupid made two people fall in love and now they'll die together even if they're on opposite teams or something like that. So the basic idea with dusk is that's when marks get manipulated, where they get set up. And then you have night, where kind of traditional One Night Ultimate Werewolf night actions happen. So you can easily mix the two games together because you can have your roles and your marks And you can even have Ultimate Vampire vs. Werewolf vs. Villager games. And maybe the vampires turn the werewolf into a vampire. In which case he just needs to make sure the rest of the vampires don't die. But, I don't know. Should be fun to play. But, whatever. I'm kind of babbling a little bit. Beyond that, I did finish watching the 4400 recently. Yeah, it actually was a kind of nice series. I guess it comes to mind because you have the more recent, the more recent than 4400 series, Under the Dome, and it's kind of interesting watching them from a series perspective. Under the Dome season 1 was spectacular. Season 2 is getting weird, and I haven't seen Season 3 yet, but I'm guessing that's shipping sometime soonish. Or was that next month? Or December. Maybe that's December. And it's kind of interesting because with the 4400, they kind of kept it at a nice, pleasant pace. They did a good job, I think. It's not a spectacular ride home. Okay, this is like a super hidden gem. It was just very nice. It didn't completely end in a very stopping point, but what they did with the ending they did have, that was actually pretty good, I thought. In retrospect, I think the ending of the 3rd season may have kind of been similar, where if they had stopped there, it probably would have been an okay place. It didn't resolve everything, but it's kind of like a good anime that leaves you wondering what's going to happen, except in this case they kind of had to end a season that was the 4th season sort of like that, and I think they did okay. I don't know why I felt super motivated to talk about that. It was thoughts. Why don't we go ahead and end the video here since I seem to be blabbering a bit. Y'all, have a nice week.